Hello, everyone. It is early for me. It's not that early. Dramatic. I will let a few of you get here. Yes, I'll let a few of you get here. I'm excited for this live. We are talking with, well, I think, did I put the title in? I thought I put the title in. It should be floating somewhere. I am talking, hi, Stephen, with Skin Perspective, that is not her name, Annalisa today, who is a skincare formulator and also has a brand of her own. And we got some great questions. We're going to talk about some other sort of general things. I'm very excited. She's in Italy currently, which is why we were doing this a little bit early. Perfect, here she is. Hi, Key. Yes, this is Jordan Samuel himself. Yay! Hi, Annalisa.
Yay! Hello.
Hello, hello.
I wasn't sure. I couldn't hear. How are you?
I'm good. I am going to live vicariously through you for this hour of amazing information, but also you being in Italy, which,
Yeah.
how are things there? How are things going there?
Well, I'm in Sardinia, so Sardinia hasn't been affected as the northern part of Italy. So things are okay. Of course, we follow the same rules as the rest of Italy. So we have to wear masks in shops and stuff like that. People are quite careful with this. I came by car here, and then I took a ferry to try to expose myself as little as possible, because I came here to visit my elder parents. And like also on the ferry, the masks were compulsory. Everyone was wearing masks. So yeah, they're very careful with it.
Good. Well, that's good to hear. Some good news.
Yeah.
And thank you for doing this chat. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. We've been actually talking about doing this for a month. It was just like something kept happening, whether it was scheduling, whether we're all going to shit, or everything in between. So it's lovely that it finally worked out.
Yeah.
But I have a group of questions that I will just ask you. And then also I want to talk about some general things that I have discussed privately on Messenger as well. But it's really important. And what do you want to go with first? Do you want to talk about that sort of general stuff?
Yeah, sorry, you're breaking up a little, and I'm also sorry, my neighbor's dogs will keep barking forever.
The dogs.
But yeah, yeah, we can go with the general stuff first. Yeah, as you wish.
Right. Tell the dogs that we're doing an Instagram Live.
Oh, yes, it's 3 of them here, just looking at me.
So let's talk about incidental ingredients, I feel like, are something that's really misunderstood and really important. And so I guess just talk about that in general, because where that is, I think, really important is for, and I don't mean to point the finger here, but it's going to be towards green or clean brands who want to avoid certain ingredients, but may not, and this might be a very innocent mistake, but may not realize, especially if they're in America, may not realize that those ingredients are in their products, especially if they are not formulating themselves. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about incidental ingredients.
Yeah, I want to explain it using an analogy with food, because I'm Italian and I always speak about food, you know that. It's like if you're baking a cake and you decide to bake a sugarless cake, for example, and you use a vanilla extract to flavor your cake, and in that vanilla extract you have a very small % of sugar, which has a purpose in that extract. So you add maybe 5 drops of extract or a quarter teaspoon, I don't know, of vanilla extract in your cake, and you say that your cake is sugarless. Well, that sugar that is in the vanilla extract is not going to sweeten your cake. It's not enough to sweeten your cake. but it is in your cake. So the same thing is with the incidental ingredients. What happens is that formulators buy raw materials, by suppliers, and some of these raw materials are not made by one ingredient. So like, for instance, plant extracts. They have the plant matter, well, not the matter, but the extract from the matter. And then they have glycerin, for example, they have water, and they have a preservative. And it could be, for instance, I don't know, 0.1% of a paraben or something like that. And then we use that extract at 2% or something in our formulation. And that preservative is going to be the 0.1% of 2%. So it's going to be a very small amount. And it doesn't have an explicit function in the formulation, in the sense that it hasn't been added for a purpose. It doesn't have the power to preserve the formulation because it's in such a small quantity that it wouldn't be able to fight against bacteria and mold and yeast. So it has a purpose in the raw ingredient, which is the one of preserving the extract from spoiling, but it doesn't have a function in the finished product. And for the FDA, it's okay to omit those incidental ingredients from the ingredients list. This is not true for the European Union, on the other hand, that doesn't have a definition of incidental ingredients. So you have to list any ingredient present, even if it's at the smallest concentration. So what happens is that some brands, actually, I think to the smaller brands that maybe don't use a chemist formulator, or I don't know, they're less aware, they could use one of these raw materials, as you said, and they're not aware that there is a paraben or something, because they have to go and check the safety data sheet of the material, and then in the safety data sheets they can also see the composition. So they use this material, and then they actually did use like a paraben or something, and then they write in their product paraben free. I mean, even if it's such a small amount, it's not paraben free. And this is like something that I think we will see less in the European Union, besides the fact that we have to declare all the ingredients. It's also the thing that now there is a technical document that has been released last year that is a guide that also has some legal value in court, let's say. It's not like a legislation, but it has a legal value that can be used against brands if they are sued for something. And this technical document has all the free from claims that are not, how you say, fair or ethical, considered fair or ethical in Europe, because it's often free from ingredients that have been shown to be safe. So it's like if you're is denigrating an English word? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm translating from the Italian again. So it's like if you are putting in bad light something that shouldn't be in bad light because it's completely legal. Yeah. So, and that thing isn't true yet in US. Probably it will trickle down though, because anyone that wants to sell in Europe, like for instance you have an American brand but you are also selling in Europe, you will have to probably stay away from the free from claims.
Right.
And yeah, and adapt to the European legislation for labeling, because you know about that. Yeah. You went through that. Okay, someone says yes, denigrate exists in English. Okay, I'm not, sometimes I just have like Italian words that pop up and I think like I don't know if I'm just doing a weird translation of them.
But yes, no, I think that's very important because that happened to me without knowing. Yeah, especially if you are just wanting to sell in the US, and whether you are formulating yourself, it gives you the information that says like, the inky name on the back should be X, but that leaves out all of the stuff because that is what is technically allowed in the US. Separately, if you have a third-party company or third-party formulator, doing that, they're going to give you the proper US ingredient list, which is not going to include those ingredients. So I think for a lot of brands would be a surprise going through the EU process to all of a sudden see certain ingredients on the list that they maybe are fine with, but just didn't expect to see there. And like I said, it's important, especially for green and or clean brands that market themselves that way, to make sure that if they're making those claims, which I hate in general, but if they are, that they're really making sure that that is correct in what they're saying. Because yeah, a lot can slip through the cracks when you don't know any better. And like I said, they might not be doing it maliciously. They might be doing it just completely naively and without knowing any better. But it's important. And so, yes, thank you for covering that, because I feel like that's an important thing that a lot of people don't quite understand, especially when they see, I think now more than ever on social media, they're really growing with a brand and seeing a brand. So for instance, our brand, they see it come from the US and then going into the EU and then having the new labeling on the back and making it seem like it's a new product when it's not. You might just see a handful of ingredients that are on the back that happen to be the incidental ingredients as part of a formulation.
Yeah.
So another thing I want to talk about, and we can just discuss this briefly because I could go on for an hour itself, but I feel like I'm constantly answering, and even Stephen Coe was doing stories about this morning, so I thought it was very, very appropriate.
Oh, I missed them. I was on my phone this morning.
It's things that we talk about all the time, but people who get, they hear from one place on the internet that like glycolic acid cancels out retinol, or you can't use retinol with vitamin C, or you can't use peptide retinol, or you can't use X with X or X with Y. And essentially, I understand that, yes, the reason I said this could be an hour-long discussion is because this is going to be very formula dependent, depending on what it is and what we're talking about. But for the most part, could you speak just a little bit about how we might not need to be as concerned as people have started to become with sort of course, you need to watch out for irritation and inflammation and sensitivities and all of that. But people are out here acting like they're going to break their skin, by doing something in a very small percentage. So.
Yeah, no, indeed. I mean, people, I don't know, I see like a trend of people being scared by skincare in general and obsessing on rules and how should I apply this goes first, this goes after. And there is no rule in skincare. Like, that's the first rule. There is no rule. You just have to listen to your skin. And you have to listen to your skin and be mindful. So I also hear like this question going around a lot. What can you mix? What can't you mix? And the reason why there is not it's still going around is that there is not a clear answer. And yeah, that's because it's very much dependent on formulation, as you said, first of all. So more than worrying of what you can mix and what you cannot mix, what you can layer, think about what you are using on your skin. So as you said, like if you know that your skin is more prone to get irritated, maybe don't use retinoids with alpha hydroxy acid. Like my skin cannot take it. Other people can take it, or there are products that are formulated that way so that irritation can be minimized. So yeah, don't worry too much. But if you know your skin cannot take it, yeah, just be mindful and don't do that. But there is not a set rule on that. And also try things like try products one at a time. And then you first see the effect of just retinoids, or then you see the effect of vitamin C. And then you can decide to layer them, because you know the single effects, and then you can see what effect the layered combination has on your skin. But no one really no one cannot know the effect that it has on your skin, because every skin is different, but also like the real interactions among each product, because the formulations are different. Like not even cosmetic scientists can know them unless you really go and study the interactions of those two particular products. Like I think there was a study, a recent one in 2019. I spoke about this in one of my stories. It was a study where, so there were two products on the market which had an active ingredient called rhododendron, and this was a skin lightening ingredient. And people started having side effects like hypopigmentation, so like white spots or lighter spots in their skin, because they were layering two products that had this ingredient, and they were recalled from the market. They made a study about these products, and they checked the effect of layering, the effect of different materials in different formulations and stuff like that. And you simply cannot exactly know the combination unless you go and study two products, like the interaction between the two products, like they've done with this. And the point of this study was, in the end, like that you should be mindful, because well, first of all, you cannot know how the layers interact between different formulations. But it also, even like this study was interesting, even among the same product, already when you layer, like the 7-skin method, when you do more layers of one product, the layers were changing in composition because of the water that was evaporating. So that was an interesting study. So don't freak out about combining ingredients or layering, let's say, because I think it's better. Like, I prefer layering than mixing formulations, like putting, but anyhow, don't freak out. Just be mindful of what you're doing, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know, because we talk a lot at Jordan Samuel Skin about mixing, but those are with specific formulations that I have control over.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then people ask, like, oh, can I do X with X? And they think I'm trying to sell them on our product exclusively. I'm not. It's just that I know from a formulation perspective that this works, and I don't know about anything else. So, yes.
Yeah. And that's, yeah. I was saying that's totally different, because you have formulated those products and you know that they can work together. It's like that product that has been formulated with retinol and alpha hydroxy acid and has been minimized for irritation. They know it can be okay for people. But taking another product and layering with another one, you don't know. You cannot know. Yeah.
Exactly. But thank you on that, because yes, I do find that people, again, I don't want to say they take skincare too seriously, because I love that they take it seriously, but I think they get too stressed out about it. They stop having fun with it. And yeah, so that they can ease up a bit and still do their skin, because they know their skin the best, even more than their facialist or their dermatologist. They're the ones so. Oh, the dogs are back.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so now
it's a rural life.
Yes, exactly. Something that ultimately lives with your skin. Absolutely. And if something works for you, that's amazing. And it doesn't work for somebody else, it doesn't mean it's going to eventually stop working for you and start working for the other person. But yeah, exactly. That's why it's hard to compare and contrast too, when people give sort of blind recommendations. Well, I always cringe because you do want recommendations, but it's really hard when everybody's so different environments, climates, different ages, different skin condition. I mean, we could go on and on with that. So, but anyway, let's get into some questions that we were sent. Some of these I think will be lighter and quicker. Some will be a little bit more lengthy to answer. But one, and we can both answer this, and I think it's going to be a sort of general question, but how long does it take for a product to go from concept to launch? And then they said indie brand versus corporation.
Yeah, so it depends on the product, and it depends on the approach you take. So if you go, for instance, through a private label is a company that has already like a set of formulations that you can choose from a catalog, and they will apply your label. So those products have been already formulated and tested and gone through the safety tests. So you just probably need to, design the label and find a distribution channel and do the marketing work. So develop marketing content, etc., brand awareness. So that's I think probably the fastest way. The only thing is that there is no customization. So yeah, maybe they sometimes they allow you to change, like fragrance, but something minor. You're not going to change a lot or an active ingredient. So that's probably the fastest way. The other way is going through contract manufacturer or a chemist that will develop your formulation, like a custom formulation, and they also manufacture it. So it will take the time to for the chemist, usually it's few iterations for the chemist to create a formula that you like the skin feel and everything. And then that formula needs to be tested with PET, which is a preservative efficacy test, and stability test at minimum. So the preservative efficacy tests, they take your formula, your product, they inoculate bacteria, yeast and mold, and then they see how your preservative system is able to fight and hinder the growth of these bacteria, and they check the reduction in count of these pathogens. And then usually this takes 28 days. And then there are the stability tests, which are those that really take the longest, and they are the tests that will allow you to say that the product has for instance, 2-year shelf life or 3-year shelf life. And there are different kind of tests, like there is a freeze thaw cycle, but you also do accelerated tests where you put your product in an incubator at different temperatures, and it's going to take at least minimum 6 months. So it's a long process. So it can take, between development and testing, probably starting from, 7-8 months minimum, and then it can take longer. For corporations, maybe what could change is that they might have the R&D in-house, but the tests that they need to do are the same. So they still need, and also still, the preservative efficacy test, stability test. But since they have usually more money, the big corporations, they might also do other tests like clinical tests, or if it's a sunscreen, they also need to do the SPF test, etc. So it might take longer for that reason, not because they are corporations versus indie brands, but they might have more money for doing additional tests.
Right.
And then there is what I call the US approach in this scenario, where you have, I say US because this is, for instance, an entrance barrier in Europe. You have like the smaller brands, I'm speaking like very small brands that don't have the budget for any test, and they don't do any test because it's not mandated. Like it says that a product must be safe. But many brands, they skip these tests. They maybe go and sell in what you call the farmer markets or stuff like that, and they fly under the radar, and there is no exact law that says that you have to do a stability test or a PET. So they can do that. They can skip that. So that's very quick. You make a product and you put it on the market. Yeah.
But yes, I would say the same thing. Honestly, I feel like on average, sort of generalizing would be a year in terms of having the idea, getting like all the iterations done and completed, then getting the packaging, then getting everything tested, then getting it, manufactured, and then getting it into the warehouse. And I think that's, for us at least, it looks like we're about a year per product. Obviously, we can have multiple going at the same time. The other thing too is there's going to be some products that we come out with in a bit that I was much more picky on, and just because of that alone, it's going to take much longer. And I think that's also, the case too, where sometimes, and I feel like you're obviously, being a formulator and chemist, much better than me, but I have something in my head and I want our formulator to, do it for us, and then they kindly do it for us, and I realize I don't like that, but I have to see it and play with it first. because I
Yeah.
don't know any other way. So that takes time as well. But yes, to your point, if it's done correctly, probably minimum 7, 8 months, moving past into a year plus.
Yeah, correctly, and some luck in the sense that you have to
Yes.
develop the product, and yeah, maybe all the ingredients are right, but you don't like the skin feel, so maybe concentrations have to be tweaked a little, or some ingredients have to
Yeah.
be changed. So that takes time. These iterations take time. Yeah.
It's so true. I've been lucky with 2 products where very early on it was exactly what I wanted. It passed testing. It was just like, but that's only happened twice. So I don't hold my breath on that for happening many others.
Yeah, it's a process, and it
Yeah.
takes time. Yeah.
So I don't want to. Somebody asked about a specific brand, which I don't want to call out the brand. It's not a bad thing, but it's a good general
Yeah.
question to remove the brand from it. But it says
Hmm.
thoughts on a certain brand's sunscreen. They claim since it's waterless formula and more concentrated, you only need a pea size for your face and neck. I don't know this brand. I don't know this product. I don't even know
Yeah.
the science behind this. But I'm just going to say no, that's wrong. But I will let you answer that question.
Yeah. So actually, someone else, I don't know if he's here or not, Cyril, told me about this brand, and I quickly checked the Instagram the other day, and then this question came up, which is interesting. Um, so I want to point few things out about this. When you go on the IG of these brands, they have videos of people applying the sunscreen with a UV camera. So you'll see a black layer coming on, right? So those kind of videos will tell you if you are applying the sunscreen in a homogeneous way, but they won't tell you the sun protection, like how well they protect your skin. So like if I were to use an SPF 15 and an SPF 50 with one of those cameras, you would see me smearing a black layer on my skin, but you wouldn't notice the difference, basically. And actually, another interesting thing that I've seen on the video is that, and this is something that a lot of people do, when they apply sunscreen, they forget this area here. And a lot of skin cancers happen in this
Oh,
area. So yeah, if you apply sunscreen, be mindful of applying it really homogeneously everywhere. But back to the pea size product, I agree with you. That's not okay in the sense that it's true that sunscreens, for sunscreens, the formulation really matters, because the sunscreen and the sun filters have to go on the skin, apply on the skin homogeneously, and they have to adhere to the skin set and not slide away. The formulation is important, but it's not about being waterless or not. So most of the you will have different kinds of formulations, but when the sunscreens are tested, and in their case, I saw they are tested with the ISO 24444 for SPF and 24443 for UVA. Those tests use, the first one uses the 2 milligrams per centimeter squared, and the second one uses 1.3 milligrams per centimeter squared. So no matter what the formulation, if you take 2 products, for instance, a waterless product and another emulsion sunscreen, and you test them with those standards, they are tested in the same way. And if they come both with SPF 50, they both have SPF 50. And they both have SPF 50 if they're used under those conditions that have been tested. So the 2 milligrams per centimeter squared, which is a very abstract number said like that,
right.
especially for whoever is not used to grams
No, like, yeah,
and centimeters.
that's
Exactly. So, but there is the SCCS, that is the Scientific Committee on Consumer Safety for Europe, and they gave basically they calculated an average surface for face and neck. So if you take those surfaces and you apply the 2 milligrams per centimeter squared, you end up with about 2 grams for face and neck, which is about half teaspoon. So those are averages, of course. Like my face could be smaller than yours, Jordan, so you might need to apply a little bit more, and I might need to apply a little bit less. But it's not a pea size, you know. So even if they say it's waterless, yes, it could be that their formulation is more efficient in the sense that they might need less sun filters to get to the same SPF 50 than other products. But if it's SPF 50, it's SPF 50 when it's applied 2 milligrams per centimeter squared. So about half teaspoon for face and neck, which is not a pea size amount. So yeah,
I mean, my
that's it.
God. And yes, I wouldn't even use a pea size amount for a moisturizer. I mean, that's like for face and neck, like that's a teeny amount.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't even use that for a facial moisturizer. My God. So yes, okay, that answers that question. Now, one of my favorite questions, which is another general question, but it comes up all the time, and the person said, how often should we actually be exfoliating? Which, of course, this is so open-ended, because to me it depends on the type of acid you're using, the percentage of that type of acid that you're using, whether it's a leave-on product or something like a mask, or like a mini at-home peel, your skin in
the pH.
The pH. I mean, right, we could keep going on and on and on and on and on. And also, even if it's in a cream as opposed to if it's in a toner, or if, like, there's so many variables to it. I will say that I feel like people either under-exfoliate or over-exfoliate. It's very rare to see, like, somebody at the sweet spot with exfoliation. But I believe that over-exfoliation has become a huge, huge issue, especially recently. And especially really since, and I wasn't in the skincare in the 90s, but obviously in the 2000s I was. But in the 90s, when sort of alpha hydroxy acid started to become more prevalent, that was one thing. But then they started to creep into at-home products. And now we have them in cleansers and toners and serums and moisturizers, in masks, in peels, in eye products. Plus people are getting treatments at the dermatologist and or their facialist, which have peels and exfoliants and masks, or microdermabrasions, or et cetera, et cetera. So usually I find that most people are over exfoliating, their skin is becoming inflamed, the barrier is broken down. Yes, if you could talk a little bit more about the variables through each exfoliation and why, I mean, not each, you don't have to go through every single asset on the market, but,
Okay.
but just sort of break down why it is going to, again, be individual depending on what we're using.
Yeah. So indeed, first of all, we have to remember that any cosmetic is something that is made to support the function of the skin, not take over. So your skin exfoliates naturally, and sometimes it might need a little help depending on your skin condition. If you have issues like psoriasis or other things that make your skin be extremely dry or flaky, your age, there are a lot of factors that will influence your exfoliation, your natural exfoliation, the squamation. So you have to keep in mind that cosmetics are a support, are an aid. So like even if you buy a product that says that it can be used every day, night and night and day, it doesn't mean you have to use it every day. You just have to listen to your skin and see if you need it or not. And you're right. Like people are using too much because they're not aware that maybe there is the exfoliation toner that they use, but then there is also salicylic acid in their cleanser or something. And then they also don't think that they might be using other ingredients that have like an indirect effect on exfoliation, like for instance retinoids that increase and speed the cell turnover. So they think, okay, I'm only using one product that is exfoliating, but actually that's not the case, and they end up over exfoliating, as you said. So yeah, you have to consider all these things, and it's a bit boring to always repeat this, but your skin is the boss. You have to listen to your skin. Don't keep exfoliating just because your neighbor is doing it or the cool Instagrammer or it's written on the bottle. So just like take a break. Like even if you I don't know, if it like start maybe with once a week and see how it goes from there. Don't just dive in with 5 days per week, or I don't know, take
That's
it
what,
slowly.
oh my God, that is like my biggest thing to say to people, because it's so much easier to add a day if you go slowly. It is so much harder. I mean, obviously you remove the days if you over exfoliate, but the amount of time it takes to really build your barrier back up and get it to a healthy place and get it to a resilient place, it's hard. It takes time, and it's trickier than just simply going slow and then adding an extra day in as you are able to. Knowing that, right, we don't have to exfoliate every day. Like, that's not the finish line. And I think some people think that's the finish line, is getting to using something every single day. But it doesn't have to be. And like for my skin, no matter how much I would train it or how gentle the acid product would be, I would never be able to use an exfoliator, nor would I want to really every single day. My skin's just not going to take that. So I love that answer. Skin is the boss. They're like,
Yeah.
we'll show you.
I know. I once sensitized my skin when I used retinoids with alpha hydroxy acid, and I couldn't even use water. Even water would burn, just water. I couldn't. And it took me 2 weeks to get back to the baseline. Yeah.
You know, that's interesting. I have mentioned this, and I think I was going to do a YouTube video on this, but there's also people who will come to me and say, I've been using your whatever product for however long, and all of a sudden I've just started reacting to it. And because they are reacting to that product, they believe it's a reaction to that product, which, yes, it may be. But then once we start peeling back the layers, it's usually because they've started upping their retinol, they've started upping their acids, they've started combining them, they've started doing it every single day. So products that you used to be fine with, to your point of water was even, you know, burning and stinging your skin, people have that with other products. And so then they get confused and they want to put those products aside, or they throw it out, or they give it away when that really wasn't the issue. And again, it creates this vicious cycle of confusion for you, confusion for your skin, confusion for your skin care. So no, I love that. Skin.
Yeah. Yeah. When I really quickly, when I had that sensitization episode, what I did was cut back everything, besides because it was stinging, but also you want your skin, because your skin is smart, to get back to the base level on itself. So don't use actives and stuff. At least this is what I do. Like, as an esthetician, I think you can suggest better, probably.
No, I would suggest exactly the same. I would suggest exactly the same. And so would Nerida. And by the way, I talked to Nerida last night, and she said hello. She was so excited for. If she doesn't get to watch this now, she'll.
Hello.
But
I love her. Yeah. Well, you know, I adore her. So.
Yes. And she was talking about how she loves you. So yes, it was a lovely conversation. Okay, so I like this question a lot. In your opinion, and I want you to go first because I need to think on this for a second. In your opinion, what are the most underrated ingredients?
Okay, I have my favorite of all. That is, I think, very underrated. I wonder how many people listening to this live actually know this ingredient, and it's allantoin.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, virtual high five.
We have that. So excited.
Yeah. So allantoin is a wonderful ingredient. Like, it's from FDA, it's considered actually an active drug ingredient when it's over 0.5% as a skin protectant, they call it. So it's really like a huge soother. So when you have irritated skin because it's irritated from chemicals or sun, or maybe a mechanical scrub or something that was too strong, allantoin really helps not only soothe the skin, but really it regenerates this, like it speeds up the restoration of the skin. So it's really a wonderful ingredient, and it's hydrating and it softens the skin. And it's a little bit tricky formulating it, in the sense that it's not super water soluble, and sometimes it recrystallizes, so it can be a bit of a pain. But the really cool thing is that it's active at really low percentages. So starting already from 0.1 it works, and you can see an effect. And like, I use it usually around 0.3% in my formulations, so that well, first of all, it doesn't go in the drug sphere for the FDA, and it doesn't give too many issues of, crystallization and stuff like that. But it works. It works at that percentage. So that's one of my favorite ingredients for sure. The same goes for urea and glycerin.
Mhm.
They are very, very hydrating. They are, they are penetration enhancers, so they can enhance the penetration of other actives, which could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on the formulation and what you want. But they are really hydrating at the epidermis level, so they can penetrate. And glycerol can also be transported through aquaporins that are like these sort of channels between membranes, and so it's wonderful ingredient. And another one, the coenzyme Q10,
Oh,
the ubiquinone.
yeah.
Yeah, very nice antioxidant that also works at very low concentrations, already like 0.3. Another one that I like. Maybe it's not, I don't know if it's underrated, but I think allantoin is definitely underrated because I don't hear much about it.
We have a lot of the same. So for me, glycerin for sure. It's just become overshadowed by other things, and I think it's amazing. Allantoin, actually, yes. And I would have not necessarily have said that, but that is coming in a new formula we are working on. And
Great.
love it. Um, and then separately too, CoQ10. I love CoQ10, and I agree. I think really antioxidants outside of vitamin C, which I'm topically very sensitive, can be very sensitive to vitamin C, but love vitamin C and understand its importance. But I think a lot of CoQ10, resveratrol, green tea, a lot of those ingredients, I wouldn't say they're underrated, but I think they sort of take a back seat to vitamin C, and I think they're lovely and amazing, and can be used in a plethora of formulas and different things. And a lot of people aren't, I mean, people still have sensitivities to certain things, but a lot of people aren't sensitive to them. So I agree. I think that's a fantastic list, and I totally agree with that.
One other that I love, which maybe is not underrated because now we hear it a lot, is niacinamide. But you made me think of this because of, you said about vitamin C, and vitamin C usually is used, during the day because it boosts the SPF protection and so forth. But niacinamide, besides like being a brilliant ingredient for like a lot of stuff, but it's also good against the UV immunosuppression in the skin. So it's really a wonderful ingredient altogether that should be considered. Now we hear a lot about it.
Exactly. That's the other thing too. Like, it's weird to me, and I'm sure it's very weird to you, that ingredients become trendy when you're like, that ingredient's been around forever, essentially. And,
oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And it just all of a sudden decides to take off. And but there always has to be something, so people always get entertained by something.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay.
Because it cycles.
I like this question, and I'm just giving it to you completely because we have this ingredient in one of our products, but it's, what is the role of BHT, and why is it sometimes referred to as a no-go in clean beauty?
Okay, so BHT is an antioxidant. It's not a preservative, because some people confuse and think that like antioxidants like vitamin E, etc., are preservatives. They are antioxidants, and their function is to let's say postpone or delay the degradation of some ingredients in the formulation, like oils or butters that are prone to oxidation. So it's a way to, they sacrifice themselves to oxidation instead of those other ingredients that we want to be fresh and nice in our formulation. And I know there is a lot of controversy about BHT, and especially, in the clean community, maybe because it has a chemical name, so everything that is chemical,
Right.
and you know what I mean, because everything is chemical, but that sounds like something synthetic and man-made must be bad. But the point is that there are some studies that show that the oral intake of BHT is toxic to liver and to kidneys, while some other studies don't support this, don't show it. But anyhow, it's the oral intake. It's also showed that when it's applied on the skin dermally, it very little penetrates skin, but it doesn't move from the skin. It's not absorbed systematically. So it doesn't absorb in the blood. The BHT or its metabolites are not absorbed. So it's actually considered safe as used in cosmetics if you or anyone else wants to go, because all these reports are public and they're difficult. I understand that they're difficult reports because they are reports made by scientists that look to all the data that is there.
Right.
But there are reports from CIR. I don't know how you read it in English, but like in Italian we say CIR, but it's CIR, which is the Cosmetic Ingredient Review, which is actually an American US committee for the safety of ingredients. And they have a report on BHT where they consider all these studies. They consider all the studies like acute toxicity, short exposure, long exposure, oral intake, dermal. You can see all these studies. Of course, I don't tell people go and read every single page because they're also very long reports. But it really, if you look at them, it really gives the idea of how much work goes into it, how things are taken seriously. And you can read at least the introduction and the conclusions, which are made so that they can be understood by basically anyone. So yes, don't be scared of BHT because it's, first of all, well, used in very small concentrations anyhow, but anyhow, it's safe at the concentration used. And you will see this sentence in most of the reports, safety reports. They always say it's safe at the concentration used in cosmetics because how everyone says now, or the scientists, the dose makes the poison. So they consider, in these studies, they consider all the registered products and in the market, and they see how much it's used in those products. They consider the accumulative exposure. They consider a lot of stuff. So, like, I trust these scientists. And of course, science is always evolving and new studies could come up. But for the state of things as we know now, it's safe and there is no need to be scared.
Exactly. Somebody said, please tell us again where we can access the library of reports.
So I'm going to tell you two official sources that are very reliable that you can consult. Is the CIR-safety.org, and then there you go in the tab ingredients at the top, and then you have a list of ingredients. You can either type and search, or you can look alphabetically. And then the other one is on the European side. It's called CosIng, so COSING. So it's a it's a database of cosmetic ingredients for the European Union. And then you can also do a search, and you can find ingredients and see if there are restrictions on the ingredients, and if there are restrictions in which annex it is. And it's very easy to consult, to search, and you can also see the annex and the restrictions and how they can be used. And you can also see for some ingredients, when it has been done, the CCS opinion, which is the reports from the Scientific Committee for Consumer Safety, where they look into safety of certain ingredients. So, yes, that one, CIR-safety.org. Yes.
Okay, and let me see, where is the... I want to make sure we're getting, because I can't believe we've already been talking for 48 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Okay, we got that. Okay, I think just that. Oh, no. Two more that I think are good. One I would love for you to talk on, or speak on, which I know we've talked about this together, and also I've talked about this on live, and you've certainly talked about that. But how bad is alcohol as an ingredient really, especially for reactive rosacea-prone skin?
So, alcohol per se, like any other ingredient, is not bad in general. In the sense that if it's put in a formulation, it has its purpose. So it's not put there as a filler, as some people say, or things like that. For rosacea, I would be slightly more careful because someone with rosacea has already an impaired skin barrier, and alcohol is also a penetration enhancer. So it can, first of all, it can dry out the skin in the sense that someone that has an impaired skin barrier has already a higher transepidermal water loss. So it has to be more careful. But also being a penetration enhancer, it can help penetrate some ingredients that on a intact skin might not be a huge issue, but for someone with rosacea, it could be an issue. So I would be more careful for people with rosacea in that sense, but it's not a bad ingredient itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And yes, I would just completely mirror everything you said so eloquently. But yeah, agreed. It's sort of become another thing that, and this isn't a green clean issue. This is more just a generalization issue where it's been perceived that it's bad, don't use it. But like you said, it can be a penetration enhancer. I mean, there can be many uses to it. And yes, it's not going to be like the first ingredient you look for. Like, I want that product with alcohol. But it's another fear thing of people with skincare and their own issues and just adding to the sort of noise that we don't need in skincare.
Yeah.
And I think that is essentially it for the questions and for our general talk. But for everybody, as soon as we sign off here, I'm going to have this up on IGTV. So we will have it. And then we will hopefully get a screen record of it. Then I can put it up on YouTube as well. And thank you so much, Annalisa, for joining.
Thank you. I had fun. Always interesting.
Yes.
So,
I loved it. And we can dive in deeper. We have to do this again. Absolutely. And
yeah, absolutely.
What a beautiful setting where you are too, I must say. It's in Seattle. It's a very gray, not typical summer day. Well, typical for Seattle, but not a typical summer day. And I'm just enjoying the view behind you. That looks lovely.
Thank you.
Olive tree?
Yes, of course.
Of course. I'm jealous.
Yeah. Yeah, I have. There are many more here.
Oh, so beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful. But thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Again, this will be going up on IGTV ASAP. Thank you, Annalisa.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
I hope you're well, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, Jordan.